The internet has a long memory, but it rarely pauses to reflect, until now. In a surprising turn that few saw coming, a netizen at the center of the Yu Menglong controversy has finally spoken up, admitting that sending a private video to Yu Menglong's agency was a mistake. The confession didn't arrive with drama or theatrics. Instead, it surfaced quietly, buried in a long post that read less like a defense and more like a reckoning. And yet, its impact has rippled across fan communities, reopening wounds many thought were already sealed. When the video first appeared, it was framed as concern. The sender claimed they only wanted the agency to know the truth, to be aware of what was happening behind the scenes. At the time, emotions were raw, timelines were unclear, and speculation was moving faster than facts. In that atmosphere, the act of forwarding the clip felt, to some, almost justified. But hindsight has a way of stripping intentions bare, and what remains is consequence. According to the netizens' own words, they underestimated the weight a single action could carry. Sending the video, they now say, removed control from everyone involved. Once it reached the agency, it was no longer a private concern or a personal worry. It became an institutional issue, one governed by legal teams, image protection, and crisis management. The human element, they admit, was the first casualty. What makes this admission resonate is not just the apology, but the clarity with which responsibility is taken. The netizen does not blame misunderstanding or claim they were pressured. Instead, they acknowledge acting impulsively, driven by fear and a sense of urgency that clouded judgment. I thought I was helping, they wrote, but I didn't stop to think about who would be hurt once it left my hands. Fans were quick to react, and the reactions were deeply divided. Some welcomed the admission as long overdue, calling it a rare moment of accountability in a space where anonymity often shields people from consequences. Others were less forgiving, pointing out that an apology cannot undo the chain reaction that followed. For them, the damage to Yu Menglong's reputation, to public perception, to trust, had already been done. The agency's role has also returned to the spotlight. Once the video was received, their actions, or lack of transparency, became a focal point of criticism. The netizens' confession has reignited debates about how agencies handle sensitive material and whether protocols exist to protect artists as people, not just as brands. While no official response has been issued in relation to this new admission, silence itself has become a statement that fans are dissecting frame by frame. What's particularly striking is how this moment reframes the larger narrative. For months, discussions centered on what the video showed, who was at fault, and who knew what and when. Now attention has shifted to something more uncomfortable, the power of bystanders. The confession forces a collective look in the mirror, asking how often outrage masquerades as concern, and how quickly private moments are turned into public currency. Yu Menglong, notably, remains absent from this new wave of discussion. His silence, once criticized, now feels heavy with context. In light of the netizens' admission, some fans interpret his quiet as restraint rather than avoidance. Others see it as further evidence of how little control artists have once narratives escape into the digital wild. Either way, his absence underscores the imbalance between those who circulate information and those who live with its consequences. The netizens' post ends without asking for forgiveness. There is no plea for understanding, no attempt to soften the impact with excuses. Instead, there is a simple acknowledgement: a line was crossed, and it should not have been. That restraint may be why the admission has resonated so deeply. In an online culture obsessed with winning arguments, choosing reflection over justification feels almost radical. This moment won't rewrite the past, and it won't magically resolve the questions that still surround the case. But it does mark a pause, an interruption in the endless cycle of accusation and speculation. It reminds everyone watching that behind every send button is a choice, and behind every viral moment is a person who cannot log out of the consequences. Whether this admission will lead to real change remains uncertain. The internet moves on quickly, and today's reflection can easily be buried under tomorrow's outrage. Still, for a brief moment, the noise has quieted enough to hear something rare: regret spoken plainly, without filters or edits. And in a story defined by leaks, silence, and unanswered questions, that honesty may be the most revealing development of all. The aftermath of the admission has been just as revealing as the confession itself. In the days following the post, old screenshots resurfaced, timelines were re-examined, and conversations that once felt settled were pulled back into the open. But this time, the tone was different. There was less certainty, less finger-pointing, and more unease. People began to ask not just what happened to Yu Menglong, but how easily a single decision by a private individual spiraled into something no one could control. Some longtime fans admitted they, too, had once believed that passing information to an agency was the right thing to do. The netizens' words forced them to confront an uncomfortable truth. Good intentions do not protect anyone from causing harm. In fact, when filtered through corporate systems and public opinion, those intentions can become unrecognizable. What starts as concern can quickly morph into surveillance, judgment, and punishment. Industry insiders quietly weighed in as well, hinting that agencies receive this kind of material more often than the public realizes. Most of it never sees the light of day, but once a video exists, it creates leverage, fear, and pressure. The admission has reignited discussions about consent and boundaries, and about whether fans and bystanders truly understand the power dynamics at play when they insert themselves into an artist's private life. Meanwhile, Yu Menglong's name continues to trend alongside words like lesson, regret, and responsibility. It's a strange shift from scandal to cautionary tale. Some fans now argue that the real tragedy isn't just the video or the fallout, but the culture that made sending it feel acceptable in the first place. A culture where proximity to celebrities feels personal and moral judgment feels like participation. The netizen has since gone silent, disabling comments and stepping away from the spotlight they never intended to enter. That silence has been interpreted in many ways: guilt, fear, or simply the realization that no further explanation can fix what's already broken. Yet even that disappearance speaks volumes. It highlights how fleeting online agency truly is, how quickly someone can spark a fire they are powerless to put out. As the story continues to evolve, one thing is becoming clear. This case is no longer just about Yu Menglong or even about a single video. It's about the invisible line between concern and control, and how easily that line is crossed in the digital age. The admission didn't close the chapter, but it changed how the story is read. And for many watching closely, that shift may matter more than any evidence ever did.